Welcome back, everybody. I had a couple people request rankings videos, so I figured I would do that for y'all today. So we're going to be doing both quarterbacks and tight ends. I'm going to be giving you my top 32 quarterback rankings, just in case you would be having to start some of these lower end guys, but only top 24 tight end rankings. I think at some point with tight ends, it just comes to, do you think they're going to score a touchdown? Or are you really just looking for a safe floor versus a ceiling? But nonetheless, let's get to the quarterbacks. So in the elite tier, we have Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. So with Josh Allen, he's playing against New Orleans. It is a cakewalk matchup. So fun fact, he hasn't thrown a pick yet. He has 2 or more passing touchdowns in 2 of 3 games and at least 25 rushing yards in each game played so far. We also have Jalen Hurts in this tier. He's playing against Tampa Bay, who's also a cakewalk matchup. He has at least 1 rushing touchdown in each game, and this game has the potential to be relatively high scoring, in my opinion. So, elite floor, elite ceiling. And finally, in this tier, we have Lamar Jackson. Now, this is a tough matchup against Kansas City. I think he has more of a high rushing output than passing output in this game. But he has at least 2 passing touchdowns in each game so far, no interceptions, and just has that elite rushing upside like I was talking about. I think he does end up with 2 rushing touchdowns this week, but I think the passing game isn't really it for him this week. Then in the second tier, these guys I think are locks to be quarterback ones, and I think they have a ton of upside. We have Fields, Herbert, Williams, Daniels, and Love. With Justin Fields, it's a cakewalk matchup. He has at least 48 rushing yards in each game played, and I think we see 2 rushing touchdowns plus another passing touchdown to Garrett Wilson. With Justin Herbert, he's had at least 27 attempts in each week, 242 or more passing yards, and multiple touchdowns in 2 of 3 weeks. I think he does his damage early en route to a big win against the Giants. Caleb Williams has 2 or more touchdowns in each game played, only 1 turnover, and he's just producing despite the fact that he is needing to grow as a real life quarterback. We don't care. In fantasy, he's been awesome. It's a great matchup against the Vegas Raiders. I think Max Crosby does sack him a couple times, but I think he otherwise has a relatively good day en route to a quarterback 1 finish. Then we have Jaden Daniels. He has elite rushing floor we like to see. I think that while, the Atlanta Falcons defense does appear tough on paper, they've only played Bryce Young and JJ McCarthy in 2 of 3 weeks. So I think that's a little bit misleading. With Jordan Love, he has the potential for a ton of passing volume in what could be a possible shootout game. So I think he has a very safe floor with a very high ceiling. With Mahomes, fun fact, while he hasn't really had the passing touchdowns, he's had at least 57 or more rushing yards and a rushing touchdown in 2 of 3 games. I think he passes enough and is successful on the ground enough to produce a low-end QB1 finish. Then Geno Smith, he's had at least 29 attempts in each game played, and he's facing a Chicago secondary without a couple key starters in the secondary, so I think he has enough volume to be a low-end QB1 this week again. With Bo Nix, he's had a tough time going against Tennessee and the Chargers, both of whom are tough defenses, but Cincinnati offers him the opportunity for a relatively easy matchup this week, combined with the chance of a high-scoring game. But I do think that they are going to quickly take care of the Bengals, and I just don't think that this game is going to be very close. And then in the next tier, we have Dak Prescott, Baker Mayfield, Drake May, Jared Goff, and Brock Purdy. With Dak Prescott, it is a very tough game against Green Bay. It's a revenge game for Micah Parsons. I do think he has a tough day from getting sacked department, but I do think that he's going to throw the ball the entire game. I think they're going to be behind, and I think he has enough volume and combined with a couple passing touchdowns to be a low-end QB1 this week. Then we have Baker Mayfield against Philly. It's a very tough matchup. He's missing Mike Evans, but does get Chris Godwin back. I think Godwin's going to be a little bit rusty, and Baker struggles to show us a ceiling week, but I think he has enough volume to be a high-end QB2 this week. Then we have Drake May against the Panthers. So I don't think this matchup is quite as tough as it seems, but rather that teams just haven't been having to do as much against the Panthers as they build leads. Now, Penix did struggle this past week, but I don't think May will, and I do think that he gets us a rushing touchdown as well. So in your 4-point passing touchdown leagues, we obviously prefer the rushing touchdown. Then Jared Goff is playing against Cleveland. So Goff is coming off a rough game against Baltimore for his standards, and I think the struggle continues. I do think he throws a couple touchdowns, including 1 to Sam Laporta, but I do think he struggles to gain consistent yardage throughout the game against the stout front 7 of the Cleveland Browns. Then we have Brock Purdy against Jacksonville. So I do think that Purdy is going to be efficient, but I do think that the 49ers are going to want to run the ball to try to get the ball out of his hands, I don't think they're going to need to try very hard to beat the Jags, so I don't think they're going to want to put him in harm's way. And so I don't think he's going to have enough volume to be one of these high-end producers like he can give us any given week that they need that kind of volume from him. Then we have Daniel Jones against the Rams. So I think that Jonathan Taylor is going to steal the spotlight again and is going to score multiple touchdowns on the ground. And so I do think that Daniel Jones remains turnover free and relatively efficient with a decent amount of yardage, but I don't think he scores the touchdowns necessary to finish as a high-end QB1 like he's capable of doing. Then we have Kyler Murray against Seattle. So I'm recording this right before the game. So he and Sam Darnold are right next to each other. We'll see how these takes play out. But with Kyler Murray, I think he struggles against the Seahawks with a couple turnovers, but I do think he ends up throwing a touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr. Then with Sam Darnold, he's playing against Arizona. Also another divisional game. Now, Darnold is new to this division, but I think that Darnold also struggles, and we see a better day in the run game from Kenneth Walker. Then we have Bryce Young against New England. So with Bryce Young, he struggled to be the version of himself that he was down the stretch this past season, and he's more so resembled the Bryce Young that we've seen throughout the majority of his career. I think even in what could be a relatively easy matchup against New England, that it's just a bad idea to start Bryce Young. With Joe Flacco, I think we see more of the same in terms of just one passing touchdown and just not very much production overall from Flacco. Detroit, while they did get burned by Baltimore, I just don't think that Cleveland presents that kind of challenge for them, if I'm being honest. Now, Trevor Lawrence is playing against San Fran. I think even without Nick Bosa, that the 49ers front seven is just going to be too much for this Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line. I think that Brenton Strange is a fine play this week. And I think we do see a little bit more of a resurgence from Brian Thomas, but I just don't think that we see a lot of touchdowns this week, and I just don't like Trevor Lawrence this week. Then we have Michael Penix against the Washington Commanders. So this does appear to be a much better matchup, but without his starting tackle, the pass rush has just been able to get to him consistently, and he just has been a shell of what he's shown us that he can be in limited opportunities so far in his career. So I think he's an avoid. Then we have Carson Wentz against Pittsburgh. So while it's an easy matchup on paper, I think that KOC is going to look to hide him in this game against TJ Watt. I think they're going to want to run the ball with Jordan Mason, so I think Mason is the better play. Then we have Tua Tagovailoa against the Jets. I think it's a tough divisional game, and while he has thrown multiple touchdowns in 2 games, he has thrown at least 1 interception in each game. I think this is a rough game for him with multiple interceptions. Then we have Matthew Stafford against the Colts. So Stafford has at least 1 passing touchdown in every game, but I do think that Kyren Williams is going to steal the show with multiple rushing touchdowns himself this week. Then we have Aaron Rodgers against Minnesota. I think that Rodgers is going to struggle mightily against the defensive scheme of Flores with his odd fronts. You never know where the pressure is going to come from. It is very tough. I think he's going to struggle. Cam Ward, I think he's a good quarterback, but the offensive line is just so bad, and he just has such a lack of playmakers that the ceiling just is not there, and the floor is terrible. He's much better than what he's producing in fantasy. CJ Stroud, see Cam Ward, except he does have playmakers, and it's still that bad. Terrible matchup for him. I just would not want to start him if I could start just about any other quarterback. Spencer Rattler, even though Buffalo does appear to be an easy matchup on paper, it's because they've had a tough schedule. I think he's playing relatively well considering his situation, but I just do not see the ceiling for him this week, and I think he has a very low floor. Jake Browning playing against Denver. It's a terrible matchup for him. I think we see multiple turnovers and the offense struggles overall. And then we have Jackson Dart against the Chargers. I think it's a brutal matchup to start your career with. I think that he feeds Neighbors enough for Neighbors to have a decent day from a yardage and reception standpoint, but I think the offense struggles. I don't think he throws a touchdown, and I do think he has multiple turnovers. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, AOYOB, and The Dawn. Without your support, this would not be possible. As you're probably well aware if you've been watching my videos for a while, I cannot get monetized because of the film breakdowns I do, and even just the little videos I have where I have clips of plays in them. They get demonetized every single time, making it therefore impossible to collect any revenue. So obviously your support is greatly appreciated. And if you are so inclined to become a member, the perks would be you will get access to a private Discord where we have both a real life and fantasy football chat, as well as a voice chat if you just don't want to have to type a bunch of stuff. I'll also give you detailed roster breakdowns and roster reviews where we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of your team. Then we kind of break it down further by looking into the scoring settings themselves and the starting lineup requirements to help you build the best team to help you dominate for years to come. In both Dynasty and then in Redraft, obviously, I'd help you with a good solid game plan, especially if you know where you're drafting from. Then also give you detailed trade advice based on your specific league settings to help you dominate. Also give you access to private live streams and the ability to not only see videos at least one day early, but also the ability to suggest videos that you would like to be created. So if you would like to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. If not, just please like and subscribe. Let's get back to the video. And moving on to the tight ends, in the elite tier, I have Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, Brock Bowers, and Juwan Johnson. With Trey McBride, he has at least 7 targets in every game so far. Somehow has already scored a touchdown, and that's not a dig at Trey McBride. That's a dig at their quarterback. But I think he has an elite week from a standpoint of a lot of receptions and total yardage, but not from, I don't think he scores a touchdown. I think MHJ actually steals the only passing touchdown of the week. But I think that he gets enough volume in this game to be the top guy and would be the guy that I would prefer overall because this is his floor that we've been seeing right now. With Tyler Warren, he's playing against the Rams. It's a middle-of-the-road matchup, but he has at least 7 targets in the first 2 weeks. He only had 5 this past week, but I think it was more so due to game script because the Colts had a huge lead the whole entire game. I think we see a lot of volume, but with no touchdowns. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to steal the show on the ground. With Jake Ferguson, he's had at least 12 targets and 9 receptions in each of the past 2 weeks. I think we see another boom game from him, but no touchdown for Jake Ferguson. With Brock Bowers, I think we see Brock Bowers as less of a decoy this week, and he returns to form after practicing fully. I think he gets a bunch of yardage, but does not get a touchdown this week. With Juwan Johnson, he's playing against Buffalo. It is a tough matchup. Now, he's had at least 8 targets in each game and is establishing himself as the Jonnu Smith of 2025. I think he is a weekly must start as long as he's getting this volume and is at this point one of the highest floor tight ends right up there with Trey McBride. And apparently Tyler Warren right away too. In the next tier, we have Sam Laporta and Hunter Henry. I think these guys are locks to be tight end 1s, but I think they're less likely to be elite and more likely to be mid tight end 1s. So with Sam Laporta, I think he catches a touchdown from Jared Goff, and he works as Goff's security blanket and seam stretching tight end this week. With Hunter Henry, he gets a cakewalk matchup against Carolina. He's seen at least 8 targets in 2 of the first 3 weeks, and I think he exploits this, and you should start him with confidence. Then we have tight ends that I think are in that low-end tight end 1 range, but potentially could be in the upper tier if they were able to score a touchdown. With Tucker Kraft, I do think we see a limited target share from him, which is why he's down here, but I think he actually does end up scoring a touchdown this week. In what is a middle-of-the-road matchup against Dallas that definitely can be exploited, as we saw Cole Kmet did score a touchdown this past week against them. TJ Hawkinson is playing against Pittsburgh. It's a cakewalk matchup, and I think that Wentz gets him enough volume in the short passing game to get enough production to be one of these low-end tight end 1s, but I don't think he scores, and I just don't think he's a high upside play, as I don't think they need to throw. Then we have David Njoku against Detroit. I think he and Harold Fannin Jr. eat up targets, but I don't think either score. Then we have Dalton Kincaid against New Orleans. Now, he scored in 2 of the first 3 weeks and does look a lot better after playing through injury this past season. I don't think he scores, but I do think he presents himself as a very high floor option as long as he's getting 6 targets. And those are Josh Allen targets, so they're not just any kind of targets. Then we have Brenton Strange as the last guy in this tier. So he's coming off a 7 target and 6 reception game. And I think that while the volume is generally unlikely to go up without injuries to other guys in this offense, I do think that his chain moving role is going to be relatively efficient from a converting the targets to reception standpoint. And I think he's going to be a very safe floor guy, but probably a limited ceiling. Then we have Harold Fannin. As stated previously, I think we see a lot of volume, but no touchdown for him. With Travis Kelce, while it does appear to be a cakewalk matchup on paper against Baltimore, I do think that he sees quite a bit of Kyle Hamilton, as the Chiefs just are really lacking playmakers. I think Worthy has a good chance of playing, but I think he's going to be quite limited with the shoulder injury. Then Kyle Pitts against Washington, it is a plus matchup. I don't think he ends up scoring this week, but if he does, he definitely could be up there, because while he hasn't given us one of these ceiling games, he has had at least 5 targets and 4 receptions in each of the first 3 weeks. We just need him to score, right? Now with Cole Kmet in the next tier with Taylor, Andrews, and Goddard, He plays against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a very tough matchup. Now, while I do think that Loveland misses this game, I don't think he scores, and I think they look to exploit the cornerbacks more so than the linebackers. Then we have Mason Taylor against Miami. It's a very easy matchup. He's coming off a career-high 6 targets, which was by far and away the most he's had so far in the first 3 weeks. I think he's more of a safe floor guy from now on as long as he's getting this volume, but it's hard to project a ceiling since we haven't really seen a week like that yet. Mark Andrews is coming off a massive boom week, but they get Isaiah Likely back most likely, probably at least. So I think that lowers his ceiling, and I think he's just touchdown reliant at this point, and I don't think he gets one. Then we have Dallas Goedert against Tampa Bay. Without other injuries in the passing game and a need to throw the ball, I just think he's a very low floor, fine ceiling tight end, but just I don't think he's likely to hit his ceiling. And then finally, we have Otton Okonkwo, likely Gesicki, and Smith in the final tier. With Cade Otton, it's a brutal matchup here against Philadelphia, but I do think that we potentially could see an increase in targets with Evans out and with Godwin, potentially being a little bit rusty. Very risky play, though. With Chig, same thing. Against Houston, it's a middle-of-the-road matchup. And Cam Ward does look for explosives, and he is an explosive player, but until we see more of an upside from this offense, I think he's too risky to consistently play. With Isaiah Likely, I think he's by far and away the most talented tight end, but I think he's going to be a little bit rusty, potentially coming back from injury. It's a tough matchup against Kansas City. And I think he's a little bit of a touchdown-dependent guy as he kind of splits targets with Andrews. Gesicki gets Denver, and while I do think that Fant misses this game, since T. Higgins is playing, it's just impossible for him to score points. I'm kind of kidding, but I don't think it's a good bet unless Higgins misses this game, which there's no reason to believe that'll happen. Then finally, we have Jonnu Smith against Minnesota. While it is a plus matchup, I think he's playing through injury, and I think that Rodgers just has a miserable day in this game, and I think that, therefore, is going to hurt Jonnu Smith. Anyways, if you would like to, I would really appreciate it if you would support me via Patreon. I'm unable to collect any revenue due to the video breakdowns I do. If you're unable to, I would really appreciate it if you could just like the video, subscribe, share with your friends. Thank you, and have a good day.